We are witnessing the downfall of one of hip-hop's biggest names, Sean Puffy Combs. And today on About the Music, I'm discussing his downfall and what it means for the decade plus of music he impacted. Currently, or as of the writing of this script, Diddy is being held without bond for pretty much everything. If it was done, Diddy did it. But specifically, he's being held for sex trafficking and racketeering. His bodyguard, Gene Deal, has been telling us about Puff for a good while now, and everyone thought he was just a disgruntled ex-employee. Pretty much, Puff has been able to pay away his transgressions for decades, pay away his transgressions and utilize his network and his connections to get around paying for the wrong he's doing and has done. Even with the Cassie lawsuit, he pretty much paid that away. And I have my own thoughts about why Cassie would just take the cash instead of pursuing this. Why she waited so long. I have my thoughts about that, but that's not what this video is about. I want to talk about how we got here. Gene Deal said Diddy wasn't born a monster. He was made into one. So, who created the monster? Sean John Combs was born in Harlem, New York on November 4th, 1969 to his mother Janice Combs, who was a model and teaching assistant, and his father Melvin Earl Combs, who was a known drug dealer. His dad was murdered when he was just 2 years of age. So Melvin was murdered when Puff was just 2 years of age. Janice and Melvin also had a daughter together, Diddy's sister, Keisha Combs. Puff was raised in Mount Vernon, New York, and attended the all-boys Catholic high school, Mount St. Michael Academy in the Bronx. This school has cases against it for molestation. Now, I'm not saying Puff was exposed to anything while he was there. Just saying this school does have complaints against it. Knowing what we know about the Catholic Church and Catholic schools might not be the first choice for a school for your son. But that's just a part of his origin story. Puff played football for Mount St. Michael Academy and will go on to major in business at Howard University. And that was one of the things that I thought about when thinking about this person who becomes this really messed up human being. Yeah, the music industry has always been seedy. It has always taken advantage of people who come from less fortunate backgrounds. But Puff, from what it sounds like, he really wasn't one of those people that comes from an unfortunate background. He was in university. He could have definitely finished that path and still had a good life. So it wasn't, the pressure wouldn't have been so strong on him to the point where he would feel the need to provide sexual favors and do all of these different things to make it. One would think that the pressure wouldn't be riding on him to that point, but we never know. While in Howard University, he would only complete 2 years before leaving to work as an intern at Uptown Records. Now, during his time at Howard, he was known for his parties. So he's always been known for his parties. He was a party promoter. He would continue to be known for his parties throughout his career. In 1990, a 21-year-old Sean Combs would beg Heavy D, that Heavy D was an artist from Uptown, for a connect within the label. The founder of Uptown, Andre Harrell, allowed Puff to work as an unpaid intern. According to legend, Andre Harrell made Puff perform oral on him and would eventually begin a sexual relationship with him. Now, this is all alleged. Puff would work at Uptown until 1993, working his way up to A&R. If you don't know, A&R stands for Artist and Repertoire, and that's the person who holds the responsibility for scouting and overseeing artist development while acting as a liaison between the artist and the label. Puff has said that he doesn't understand where his talent comes from. He doesn't play an instrument, never went to school for music production, but he knows how a song should sound and how to give artists direction. This is similar to Steve Jobs, in my opinion. Steve Jobs was the co-founder of Apple. Steve Jobs wasn't an engineer or even a college grad, but he just knew how to bring brilliance out in others. That is kind of what I heard when Puff said that. I just thought that was interesting, so I wanted to point that out. During Puff's time at Uptown, he worked with Jodeci, Father MC, and listen, I'm pretty sure I'm going to leave out a lot of other artists, but he worked with Jodeci, Father MC, Mary J. Blige. He was the executive producer for Mary's My Life album. In 1993, Puff was fired from Uptown because he felt he could run the label better than Andre Harrell. And at the time, he probably was right. He promptly went on to begin his own label, Bad Boy Records, taking Notorious Big with him. Bad Boy was absolutely all Notorious Big because he was the, I don't know if flagship is the right word, but he was like the main attraction for Bad Boy. He started it all. Now this is when things get sticky because Bad Boy ruled a good portion of the 90s with the best lineup of artists in the industry. And if you were a teenager in the 90s, you know Bad Boy had some of the best music, some of the best hip-hop music. As we watch the downfall of Diddy, we now have to think about all of that music and all of that musical history and what it means for his body of work and the things that he had his hand in creating during that Bad Boy era.
Yo, Puff, I don't think they're ready for this. I'ma throw shade if I can't get paid. I like it. Baby girl, you look so flashy.
All these things that are going to come out about him, be it him sexually assaulting Usher, allegedly, to whatever he did with Justin Bieber, allegedly, all of these terrible things, sex trafficking young girls, allegedly. If all of this comes out to be true, what does that mean for the work, the music that he took part in? Because even with Notorious Big, like even with Biggie, if I listen to his music, I hear Puff somewhere in the background. And I can't listen to any of Mary's early work at all without, like, I know that's the Bad Boy Puff influence in her music. So what does that mean for those artists, for all of that music? Do we just throw that music away with Puff? You know, I think it's an interesting question. During the label's reign at the top, Puff was everywhere and working with everyone. The label was comprised of Faith Evans, Craig Mack, Big, Mace, 112, Total, The Lox, Shine, and Carl Thomas. He would later bring on, I believe, French Montana, which doesn't really count, Machine Gun Kelly for whatever reason, Janelle Monáe, Bow Wow, and Cassie in the 2000s and 2010s. Beyond the artists signed to Bad Boy, Puff also worked with everyone from MC Lyte to Usher. He became known as the king of remixes, and mixing old school soul and R&B with hip hop became his signature. As time went on, we began to hear whispers of Diddy's issues from bad deals. So we knew he wasn't paying his artists.
What's up? I mean, check this out, man. The last time y'all did this, man, y'all did the whole campaign, let the Lox go and all that. Y'all ain't want to be down with Bad Boy, so we let y'all go. Y'all want to be down with us, we let y'all go, we keep it moving. But to get on there and portray like somebody got to go and steal and rob and be shysting, y'all, that ain't really correct. You know what I'm saying? And first of all, I'm at my office right now. I'm always accessible. Y'all ain't got to get on the radio and do certain tactics and do certain things to ever holler at me. Jadakiss, last time I saw you, I told you, let's get together, let's talk. You know what I'm saying? I told you I'm accessible. I said, if anything don't come, if there's somebody standing in the way for you expressing yourself, or any of y'all expressing yourself, y'all can come and get at me directly. You know what I'm saying? All that throwing the refrigerator, you gonna kill, they ain't killing nobody, man. You know what I'm saying? We businessmen. We all mature adults. Say all that right there. I'm at my office. Y'all can sit on this interview with her and talk as long as y'all want to talk about it. Or you can take the invitation I gave you before. But it's not even getting there because of you get on the radio, whatever tactics. I ain't your enemy.
Dog,
I ain't your enemy. You need to bang like that on stuff that's coming at you. I ain't your enemy.
Just yesterday we got a note from your office saying you don't have no idea of none of this or none of nothing.
Just yesterday, your lawyer told us that.
I see you at the show backstage. You said find out what it was.
But don't sit here and portray like Puff took nothing from y'all.
Puff, what is it? What is it? What do you call it?
If it's 10 years,
what do you call it? And don't say we can come to your office or do none of that, because we can't do none of that.
Street was volume 14.
We can't handle it no other way but with lawyers, and you know that, so don't get on the radio and act like a tough guy or none of that.
You know how we can settle?
You acting tough.
I'm in my office. So why don't we stop talking on the radio?
Now, you want people to stop talking because you just don't want to know the truth, dog. We made one record with you. Money, Power, Respect. It's 10 years later, and you still got half of our publishing. Now, there's no way you can make it justifiable that you said you deserve half of our publishing.
To my face, we just at the concert. You ain't saying nothing.
What are we going to do, saying it to your face? Soon? What do you want us to do? We can't touch. We can't be violent. Or none of that. We can't even have.
The rumors began to bubble to the top, but every time we'd hear about something, the rumor would disappear. In 1999, Puff was dating Jennifer Lopez. In December 27th of 1999, Puff shot Natanya Rubin in the face during a nightclub shooting that occurred in New York. She filed a $130 million lawsuit against Puff and settled in 2011. Puffy, J-Lo, and Shine were all arrested in connection with the shooting, but only Shine at the time. Even though one of the victims says she was facing Puff and saw him pull the trigger, Shine at the time.
There's no doubt in my mind who shot him.
You have said since really right after the shooting that it was P. Diddy who shot you.
I was standing by the front door. I watched the entire thing out. I had no reason to believe that it would escalate to a shooting. It was just male machismo and bravado at first. A lot of pushing and shoving, raised voices, hands. But then I saw them reach in their waist and draw from their hip. And I knew. I instantly turned to my friends and told them, be careful, watch out. And when I turned back, I know, and I've said over and over, I've heard the voice of God. Said, you are about to be calm down. And as I said no, I looked straight forward ahead and I watched the muzzle flash from both of their guns and I felt the impact to my face instantly. J-Lo testified at the grand jury, as did many other people. It needs to be reopened because if that is in fact the case, she carried the gun in and she lied to the grand jury.
His involvement in the deaths of Tupac and Biggie were also called into question, and I believe they are specifically his connection to Tupac's death is now possibly being reinvestigated. But they were called into question when Keefe D, the man who was in the car with the shooter, Orlando Anderson, said someone put a bounty on a death row chain so it could be used in a Bad Boy video. Now, that bounty on that death row chain, if you've been following the entire story, that bounty indirectly resulted in Pac's death, because it would end up being behind the casino fight, right? So after Pac's death, Puff pushed Big to go out to Cali. In my opinion, and a lot of other people's opinion, far too soon after Pac's death. He ignored several warnings from his bodyguard at the time, Gene Deal, advising him of impending danger. Ironically, once Big died, Puff became the CEO and main artist of Bad Boy. So he was already CEO, but he became the main artist of Bad Boy. Like he didn't hesitate to get on stage and just be the front man. Ugh, disgusting. He's been disgusting. His behavior has always been questionable. Do y'all remember that? What it felt like a ritual he did on stage after Big died? It's the Every Breath I Take performance. I watched that quote unquote performance when it aired, and all of Big fans were confused as to how he could be dancing around like that after losing your so-called best friend. Like, it was confusing. He didn't stop there though. He continued to work toward being the music industry's biggest villain, and because he had enough money and power to send folks away from life, they were silent. Diddy has been rumored to be sexually involved with, well, pretty much everyone at this point. Every time I fall into the Diddy side of YouTube, there's another romantic interest for Diddy. It's, if he's not sexually involved with them, it isn't for lack of trying. Like, he's been linked to everyone, allegedly. All of the men he's dealt with is up for speculation, but we know he's been romantically involved with Misa Hilton, Kim Porter, J-Lo, Cassie Ventura, Sarah Chapman, Cameron Diaz, Gina Hung, Carisha, and Dana Tran. He has 7 kids. Puffy started dating Misa Hilton while he was working as an intern at Uptown. The blonde girl in the hot tub with Diddy in Biggie's Big Papa video, that's Misa. Misa is she's the stylist who dressed Lil' Kim, Mary J. Blige, and Jodeci in the early years. She would create China Doll Enterprises and provide stylists for video shoots. So her company styled Aaliyah, Faith, Drew Hill, Foxy Brown, Q-Tip, and Jodeci, making her a millionaire by age 25. Misa and Diddy had their son Justin on December 30th, 1993. There's been speculation that Justin may not be Diddy's. That's all speculation. According to Gene Dill, Puff's ex-bodyguard, Puff beat Misa often. One time, he beat her so bad she crawled under a car to avoid the blows. In 2023, when her son Justin Combs was arrested and charged with DUI, she said the following via Instagram. I'm just going to put the screenshot up here. So now, Misa has been around Diddy for decades, benefiting from his wealth. He was paying for her house and was paying her $35,000 per month in child support before he appealed for a lower payment. $35,000 per month in child support. She knew he was a monster. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, like, financially, she wasn't about to say anything because he was basically paying for her life. That's sickening to me. Puff left Misa shortly after the birth of their son Justin and promptly moved on to Kim Porter. Puff said the first time he saw her was at the studio with Al B. Sure. He said he wasn't trying to holla at her, but was admiring her lips, her eyes, her mouth, her shape, her energy, and thinking, I wish I had a girl like that. She kind of made me nervous. This is Puff talking. She kind of made me nervous. Kim wasn't like a New York girl. She was bohemian, mixed with Georgia peach hospitality, he said. He got the idea she'd like doing stuff like walking barefoot in the grass. She was smooth like ice. He said she was cool and collected and thought before she spoke. She was never pressed. She was always in control. He liked Kim, but he messed that up too. Kim would end up dating Diddy off and on for 13 years. During that time, Puff would... Let me back up. I said he liked Kim. He's always claimed that she was like the love of his life. I don't know whether he really loved her or if he wanted to have elements of who she was. You know what I'm saying? Like, he fancied parts of her personality and character and wanted to take those on for himself. Just a weird thing. Anyway, Kim would end up dating Diddy off and on for 13 years. During that time, Puff would adopt her son that she had with Al B. Sure, whose name is Quincy. And together, they would parent their son, Kristen, Christian, and their 2 daughters, Delilah and Jesse James. Now, sources like Gene Deal have said in several interviews that Puff was violent toward Kim on several occasions. He also cheated on her and tried to control her life by tracking her and blocking her from exploring romantic feelings for anyone else. And Cassie said the same thing in her lawsuit. Of all the women Puff has dealt with, he has spoke the most highly of Kim, but that didn't stop him from mistreating her. Diddy owned the Toluca Lake home Kim Porter lived in prior to her death. He was also paying her $20,000 per month in child support. So, Kim also knew the kind of person he was and what he did. But she didn't say anything either, because he owned her home just like he owned Misa's home, and he was paying her $20,000 per month in child support. In 2007, Puff would become romantically linked to Cassie. Their tumultuous relationship would run 10 years. Puffy signed Cassie to a bad boy deal that basically enslaved her to him. Again, he weaves himself into the tapestry of these women's lives through children or their finances. He finances their lifestyle to the point where he owns everything about them: careers, homes, cars. It's an abuse of power for sure. We know how this relationship with Cassie ended after years of sexual, mental, and physical abuse. Now back to the idea of Diddy being made into the monster he is. I believe the Bible passage that says it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man to enter the kingdom of God. This is a profoundly deep passage because it points to the power associated with wealth. That power corrupts its owner. Who or what do you become when no one will tell you no? So this is, and we've seen it just in the little bits that I've talked about, all of the artists that he's worked with, his personal relationships with Misa and Kim, them having so much money that no one will tell you no. No one wants to be your enemy. That kind of power corrupts its owner. When everyone thinks you have the ability to save them from poverty or other adverse situations, it takes an extremely faithful person to remain virtuous under those conditions, to not begin to view themselves as God. I think Diddy did everything he wanted to because he could. He did everything and anything he wanted to because he could. Was he compromised sexually to move up in the industry? Most certainly. I think so. But that only shows that his character was broken from the very beginning. What are your thoughts? How do you feel about the musical legacy of Diddy? Because if I were to go into all of the music he's had his hands in, this could probably easily be an 1.5-hour video. What do we do with that music once his case is decided and closed? If he has indeed been sexually abusing young artists, sex trafficking young women, what does that say for his music legacy? An entire decade of music. What happens to it? And what of the women who were aware of his dealings but didn't say anything because they basically lived off of him? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you would like for me to feature an artist or a group, leave that in the comments as well. I'll catch you on the next one.